everybody. How goes it?
Hey,
Hi, Claudia. I'm so glad you can make it.
I know, it's been a while.
I know. I was like, I hope you hadn't left. I have an attachment disorder with you agency people moving around. Oh. And then I had to just steal Lori back from the great beyond. All right. Well, I think we're gonna get some more people kind of coming in. Oh yes, we're getting lots. Oh, this is gonna be such a good conversation. I'm so excited to have this extra sort of special meeting for us to really just coordinate. We're not going to sit and listen to a presentation, really. We're just going to see where we can work together on aligned and relevant um, efforts related to tribal data access and research. So that's what we're going to do today. Let me just go ahead and, yeah, it's pretty informal how we're going to operate today. We really just want to get a handle on how to coordinate better between all of our organizations doing some really good work. Hi, Shasta. Hello. And so, yeah, I think what we'll do is kind of just go one by one and sort of listen to each other and what upcoming priorities and projects you've got going on that are related to tribes, climate change, and health, and how to get the right information to tribes. Um, and then we're going to just kind of talk about collaboration opportunities. I think we could talk about it as we walk through each agency's work. Does that sound good? Does anybody have any questions or thoughts on what we're here to do? All right, why don't we spend a minute just doing intros, because I think we all know each other, but let's just see who's here. So you guys know me, I'm Angie Hacker with Prosper Sustainably and helping Shasta with the Tribal Climate Health Project. Shasta.
Thanks, Angie. I'm Shasta Gaughan. I'm the Environmental Director, Tribal Historic Preservation Officer at Paula, and taking credit for all the work that Angie is doing. Really, I'm just here to be a face. Angie does all the work, but really, thank you all for being here. I'm looking forward to hearing what people have to say about this important topic.
Great. And Lori.
Lori Montserrat. I'm a contractor for Angie and trying to be a helper.
Lori. So why don't I just I'm gonna go down my screen and just call y'all out. Ben.
Hey everyone, my name is Ben Hatchett, and I am a research meteorologist in NOAA's fire weather testbed and part of the user needs assessment team.
Claudia.
Hey, just trying to get my video off. Claudia Brown, I'm with the CDC's Climate and Health Program, and happy to be here. I know I have a conflict with our science team is during this time usually, so not always on here, but glad to be here today.
Yes, you've been a really great partner. Sarah Carb.
Hi, yeah, I'm Sarah Tiglio. I use she, her pronouns. I am work in the research division at CARB, and yeah, thanks for organizing, Angie.
Sure. Emma with OEHA.
Hi, I'm Emma. I am an environmental scientist at OEHA in the climate change indicator section.
And N Motali. Yes.
Yes, good morning. This is Nezat Motalibi from Research Division, California Air Resources Board. I'm managing several research projects, mainly on the impact of the wildfire in California. And I'm here just mainly learn on this topic to see how it can be incorporated or make sure investigate or look at these aspects of the, important aspects of our things in the state for research project. Thank you.
Thank you. Ava.
Hello, I'm Ava Scally. I'm an environmental scientist with the State Water Board Climate and Conservation Program, and my counterpart, Chris Hyun, is often part of these groups, but is out today.
Got it. Thanks for being here. Emily.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily Wells. I'm a social scientist with the NOAA Fire Weather Test Bed. I work with Ben on the user needs assessment team.
Great. And Colleen.
Okay, sorry, I got unmuted. Hi, everybody. My name is Colleen Bodenreiter. I use they, them pronouns. I'm with the Public Health Alliance of Southern California. We produce the Healthy Places Index, and I am the climate change and health data lead on that project. So.
Great. And Asamu. Nice mustache.
Thanks, Angie. Hi, everybody. I'm Osamu. I'm with the Department of Public Health's Office of Health Equity, and I'm in the Climate Change and Health Equity section, providing technical assistance to tribes with climate-related planning. And we're on a staff retreat today, so I can only join for part of the time. But
Glad you're here. I think I covered everybody. Did I miss anyone? Speak up if I missed you, please. Okay. So, you guys know us here at the Tribal Climate Health Project. A lot of what we've been doing on this data development work has been to try to make it easier for tribes to access the information that they need to act on climate change, and understand their impacts, see the threats coming, ideally as far ahead as they can, and when they go to act upon it, also have access to real-time information. And so you all are out there doing work that really is relevant to that. And we really just want to say we appreciate your continued partnership. I have California on the screen because I think that's what we're going to talk about most today. I know there's federal folks here, but Tribal Climate Health Project also serves nationally, but a lot of our work is starting to focus more and more on the tribes in California in some of our more recent grants. So I think there's opportunities to collaborate on quite a few things that we're working on, and I want to hear what you're working on. Lori, would you mind? Can you drop this link if you can in the chat for folks? If you haven't seen it, I sent this. We sent this email out earlier, and we invited folks to add your work to this really just informal shared doc, so we can kind of get a landscape view on what we're all working on. We figure if we see it, maybe we'll see some opportunities to work together on a few things or streamline things. Some of what we'll probably talk about is even how we engage tribes, and maybe there's a way to do that where we're not exaggerating the problem, even worse of engagement fatigue, right? So anything that you have that's tribal adaptation, resilience research, data access, engagement, or related capacity building efforts, that's what we want to hear about. And so we can take notes for you. If you haven't yet gotten in here, that's okay. You're just going to kind of say it out loud. We'll help you note it. And then we're going to look across and see where we see some opportunities for streamlining. Okay, so that's basically the job of today. Let me share with you the document on my screen and just how it looks. One sec. And I can offer to go first, though we don't need to at Tribal Climate Health Project. If anybody's feeling excited and ready to go, they can also go first. But let me know if anybody's feeling excited to share first. Okay. I think you're comfortable letting me wet the whistle here a little bit, which I'm happy to do. So I threw some stuff here. We've got lots of rounds of funding that are in progress right now. And we are in the midst of beginning sort of a new wave of some of the things we need to do in the next year. One of the new things we're going to be developing starting this spring is to recruit and facilitate a tribal advisory group. So this is new for us. We've had lots of cohorts of small groups of tribes that have worked with us on our data development efforts in the past. That's looked like us giving free consulting to access data and compile vulnerability data for them in exchange for their feedback on the kinds of data they need and what's meaningful to them and how they use it. So there's an element of that that's going to continue, but we have other needs for tribal advice as well. And so we have this new award with our friends at Public Health Alliance that they run the California Healthy Places Index. And there's an advisory role embedded in there. So we feel like, let's just get one group of tribal advisors to operate for 2 years. We can compensate them. We'll compile data for them. They'll tell us a little bit about their data gaps. They'll help us review the new functionality in the Healthy Places Index. We'll ask them about what best practices they use around adaptation data. And especially focus on this water and wildfire issue. So there's a relationship to some of the other stuff we're working on, but this will be one way to engage, trying to streamline here, right? So we're taking 3 separate grants, and instead of doing separate outreach and engagement for all of them, have 1 2-year sort of tribal advisory post on us. So stop there if there's questions. Or if you're like, hey, there's already plenty of tribal advisory groups out there. Why are you reinventing the wheel? Use this one. Or, hey, we've got some other stuff we need a tribal advisory group for. Can we work with you? Any thoughts there? Would you, if this existed, would this be something that you would bring something to?
So Angie, I have a question. Are you saying that different state agencies theoretically could use this group if they needed feedback on projects from tribes?
That's kind of what I'm toying with. I don't want to overwhelm these guys, right? I feel like, we can get them what they get in exchange for this. They get compensated for it, and they get free consulting in the form of we're going to compile their data for them. But I also don't think we can expect too much in exchange. So I'm thinking there's like 5 meetings or something of this group over a 2-year period. But I want to hear more. So if there's other resources to leverage out here, we could compensate them better to do a bit more. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's one way we're thinking about streamlining our engagement. And if you're thinking we got to do this big California statewide engagement, this could be an element that you use. Yes, Sarah.
Yeah, part of the reason we reached out to you is because we were still trying to figure out how to engage tribes. And so the California Air Resources Board is under the umbrella of Cal EPA, which, OEAHA is also under Cal EPA. But then there's also the Resources Agency, which is another umbrella agency, and the Energy Commission is under the Resources Agency and other state agencies. So there's this division between Cal EPA and the Resources Agency. And so at CARB, when we said that in developing our 5-year plan, we wanted to engage with tribes, we were told that there is a tribal advisory council that Cal EPA meets with monthly, I believe. So, we're still trying to understand, how CARB and Cal EPA coordinate with tribes, and I assume you would also be aware of that. But I also don't want to duplicate efforts and approach tribes in different venues, but that could also be helpful. But we have not presented to the Cal EPA Tribal Advisory Council yet.
OPR also has one, I think. And I know that CARB also has an environmental justice advisory, right? Environmental justice or DAC advisory group.
Yeah, the EJAC, yeah.
Yeah, which is outside of the TAC, the Tribal Advisory Committee.
Yeah, it's totally separate.
Right. And I think it does have tribal representation, right?
The TAC is also in the same kind of position that you were describing, Angie, where while Cal EPA wants them to know about things, they don't necessarily want them to be burdened with review this. It's more
Totally.
information, not we have a task for you.
Yes.
But they absolutely want them to be informed.
Yes. The other thing we've got too, Shasta oversees the tech, which is Southern California tribes that were funded by Strategic Growth Council. In fact, speaking of your face, Shasta being everywhere, it was all over LinkedIn yesterday. They just had their big strategic planning summit. And one of the things in that, and one of those grants that's supporting tech is to re-up the TechX conversations. And that just looks like statewide. We haven't decided how often. Statewide conversations, giving kind of a home to regular statewide conversations with tribes where we can bring things to them.
Somebody is like murdering a small animal in my office or something. There's like this terrible squealing noise. It's not an animal. Sorry, I shouldn't say terrible things like that. It's like somebody is letting helium out of a balloon or something. It's like squeak. So
I don't hear it at all.
That good, because it's ridiculous. So on the CARB front, though, CARB is also working on developing a new tribal engagement strategy, and I know that because I'm helping with that in my free time. And what we're finding in our outreach with a lot of the agencies, the state agencies, is that everybody they either have one of their own or they have nothing, but they want something. And we're hoping that we make CARB so fabulous that everybody just says, well, forget ours, we'll just use CARBs. Because that's another thing that tribes are dealing with, is like everybody has their own engagement strategy, but they basically, all the best practices are going to be the same. So there's no reason to keep doing that over and over again. And interestingly, it's a little bit peripheral to this, but a bill was passed in 2022 that requires Cal HR, or the big human resources agency for the state, to provide tribal consultation training. And they want the tribes to consult on the consultation training. But I got an email about it yesterday, and the 2 listening sessions are today and tomorrow. And I'm like, well, so much for that, because I don't have that. I mean, you got to get me like 4 months in advance. But we have an opportunity to comment on that. But this is the sort of thing that tribes we're not even at the point where we can talk about the data, because we're just talking about how to do the outreach in the first place. We're overwhelmed by requests. How can we best help you? And one of my answers is, stop asking how we can best be helped, and actually just start helping us. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I will also just make the observation that, at least in maybe I'm projecting a little bit, but I find that when we talk about data for tribes, Angie and I have multiple times offered to tribes in California, we will compile data for you that's going to be used to inform your vulnerability assessment and ultimately your climate adaptation plan. And we don't get takers on that. So I think that somehow we're missing something in the way that we present that opportunity. And I keep focusing on the very word data, that people are going, I don't need data. This isn't science. I just need to know how to help my community. So if any of you have had any experience with working with tribal communities or DACs, and you find that there's better language that you can use to help people understand what it is that we're offering, I think we need to get out of our science bubble, much as I love living in the science bubble, and instead say, here's the information you need to help your community. Something like that.
So, in some ways we're feeding into the problem because we're asking tribes for feedback like everybody else. I mean, but that's why we changed the model. So instead of to compensate them and give them more in exchange for their time, and ask them for post, to remain in a post for 2 years. Sarah.
Yeah, also in filling out information in the document that you provided, I actually feel like CalAdapt is one of the most useful tools that has compiled geospatial data. And I assume a lot of you are familiar with it, but it was funded by SGC and CEC. I know about it because I was actually at the Energy Commission back when we developed it a long time ago. So I listed it at the end under SGC and CEC, but all of the data that's developed from the 5th assessment, that is geospatial data, any type of projections like about climate, about snowfall, about rainfall, is all available there, and you can even download Excel spreadsheets with the data, as well as see it visually on the website that's provided, which is very user friendly, I think. So I feel like that's a huge asset.
Yeah,
And
maybe a little background too. It's like we've been at this for 7 years trying to identify where the best data really is for tribes. And so we're so lucky in California to have stuff like CalAdapt, but there's actually like 30,000 different data sets. It's all part of the equation, and CalAdapt doesn't have it all. Nobody has it all. Nobody is a one-stop place. So it's like a continuous, all right, so understanding what tribes really need and then finding it somewhere in the ether in a credible space and then presenting it to them in as user-friendly way as possible has been the challenge. There's like funding, like engagement, the data is overwhelming and it's in too many places and everybody's buried. But CalAdapt's a good start. I think we get a lot from that. But that's what we've been trying to do. It's like at the very least, we want to navigate people to where to get the information as easily as they can so they can make decisions. So keep that one in mind. I don't think we've solved it. I don't think we've come up with some grand unifying theory on tribal engagement and advisory groups, but know that, yeah, it's good to know what's out there. And if the hard thing is like we have some specific requests for what we would want out of our advisory group. And that's probably true for all the state agencies that form their own. And I'm not sure that they would just welcome ours in. But if if there's an agency out there that would be like, hey, just use ours, maybe we would. Okay. Maybe, yeah, a different one here down below. We haven't exactly come up with a time for it yet, but I know Noah is interested in a questionnaire as well. But we have a deliverable for a California statewide travel questionnaire. And I'm not excited to do it only because it's, again, the same thing, more questionnaires, more of a burden on tribes. And I'd really like to consolidate this with some of the other stuff that's coming and maybe have a little bit more of a collective oomph behind it, rather than kind of distracting attention away from each other. We want to hear more from tribes about how they're using data, what their practices are in using that data for decision making, both in planning and in action, and finding out a little bit more about data gaps. But we won't say data, information gaps. Like, what do they need to make decisions about the best ways to use their limited time and money on adaptation? This is an extension of past work we've done where we've worked with regional groups of tribes, but now we wanted to do a bigger statewide push, to answer more questions and get more solidity around what we know are some data gaps. So Noah, on anybody else, you've got some other folks have questionnaires in mind. What are you up to?
I would say we're very much from the NOAA fire weather side, we're very much in the early stages. And Emily can add probably a lot to what I'll say here, but yeah, we're in the early stages of figuring out all the different instruments that we want to use to get the information that we need to pass up to make changes so that the information becomes more useful and usable for the people whose input we're asking for on that. So it's kind of that cyclical process that of course, must take into account this overburdening and asking too many questions. And so the thought I had for potential alignment would be ways that we could help ask questions that support everybody better, particularly tribal groups in the fire space. But yeah, I guess I struggle with how do you just not keep asking and making folks provide more information when they actually just need, like Shasta said, the help itself. But maybe learning about examples where data has really helped make a decision or provide better guidance or information in a particular type of event that pertains to an extreme climate event, and how that was handled or is being planned or prepared for better, or other types of kind of high impact compounding events where you have multiple things happening over time. Emily, do you have any additional thoughts there?
No, nothing specific. I thought, Ben, that we might be able to, it sounds like we could have alignment with the advisory group effort that Angie was describing. And I don't know if you also saw that alignment or.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, we just want to make sure that the tribes have a voice in the information that we're gathering from everyone involved in fire. That is conveyed up the chain. And one really example that's stuck with me was a few years ago, Angie, at the meeting where one of the tribal members mentioned that when there's a wildfire and you have these incident management teams come in, we don't get a say in what happens on our land anymore. And so conveying those kinds of pieces of information and just hearing these stories probably, and thinking about maybe more fun types of questionnaires where we can have more of a storytelling aspect, where we can kind of gather information and have that information passed along and conveyed along, if that might be one way to think about that. But yeah, I guess I'd say we're here to support you all and kind of leverage our activities. If those are beneficial for what everyone else here is doing, we would, and it pertains to fire and air quality in particular. But yeah, we're happy and we're here to work with you on that.
I mean, and what you guys have, which is great. I mean, it sounds like Emily and you both you develop research instruments all the time, like these surveys, and so that expertise is useful for us to make sure it's done really well. And I think as long as the pig is in the right shaped hole, like you are willing to focus on California, because that's where we need to focus for our grant, that's what we said we would do. So as long as we're both focused in a reasonable time frame on California tribes, I think we could work together on questions.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Or helping, like, especially with Ben's meteorology background, I think we could both cover the breadth and depth of questions and how to frame them with myself and some of the other social scientists on the team.
The other thing we could work together on is lit review, right? So if there's information that already exists, let's use it instead of asking questions again. And then outreach. Yeah. Right? Like we can help a lot with that piece.
And one other idea that might overlap with a number of other folks here is the prescribed and cultural fire aspect of needing to get beneficial fire back on the land in its various forms, and all the ties with local air quality and permitting and how we can facilitate that process, because that is such a broader piece of total environmental health, people and land together. And so that's another potential avenue that I'd see us being able to collaborate on. And a lot of the work that's happening in Northern California in particular, that's where I'm most familiar, I think would align very, very, very well with a lot of the activities going on.
And that's part of the questionnaire you're thinking of doing?
It'll
Or is that
tie
a
into
separate-
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Asking questions about understanding the barriers and gaps and limitations of information used in planning and implementing prescribed and cultural fire.
Oh, Lori, I see your hand up.
I thought one of the things Ben touched on was really important, which was the incident command coordination, because I think a big piece that's missing is that a lot of the tribes don't see how data can be helpful. When you have a wildfire burning 40,000 acres in the first day, how could data have helped in any way? That's just crazy. But I think that when even tribes that are more focused on other things than environmental issues can see that, hey, if this happens, coordinating incident command, dealing with FEMA, that's going to be something that is going to get people's attention, because knowing they already know they're in a wildfire zone. I mean, that's clear. Just like, so why do we need the data? I think that's really critical.
Yeah, it makes sense to me to be like slicing out buckets, like use cases for data, right? So in some cases, we need it to see the threat coming and put it in our vulnerability assessment so we can plan for it. In other cases, it's real life, real time data that we need right now to respond. Okay. I mean, I feel like it makes sense to work together on it, and we would need to work through the details of like, is this your questionnaire that we are helping out with, or our questionnaire that you're helping us with? It probably makes sense for it to be yours with us as partners, just because you're big. You're the big league. And is it yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Because Emily could maybe give a little bit more explanation on the IRB, and we kind of just submitted a big like document to approve the development of all of this, and so that might facilitate and help out others too, to not have to go through that if we do.
That's true. And also, where we're helpful is being on the outside, where we don't have as many hoops to get through. But I don't know that in not having the hoops that it becomes useful to you, right? Like, can you use something if it were done by us?
There are ways to do it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it might, and we can have maybe a follow-up call on the technicalities of that, but
Yeah.
I think it's certainly possible.
And CARB, I know you guys have some existing research and probably some pending research that's relevant, especially when it comes to wildfire. You see any useful touch points here? Like either lit review we can use or working together on these questions?
Well, actually, NAZOT managed most of our wildfire research, which has been looking at the impact of like prescribed fires to reduce and how they contribute to smoke and reduce wildfire. I don't know, NAZOT, if you want to talk about more.
Yes, thank you so much. I have a very new CARP or research division is going to have a very new project with the scientists, a group of the large scientists from the UC Davis and also NCAR. And one of the primary objective of this project is they are going to look at the air quality impact of both wildfire and prescribed burn. And it's something that we are looking, especially, whenever the state is going to use the prescribed fire extensively for the wildfire mitigation. But then it's very overall community may also have a concern with respect to the air pollution or any health impact of the prescribed fire, because you are talking about the burning million acres per year, and sometimes multiple burning that could even exceed the 1 million, acre per year. And when the people see the smoke or smell it or something, in their community in general, not just the tribal, that it caused some impact, and they keep calling this district or complaining, So this project, and we also have several other projects that Sarah Pitiglo is acting sort of and her staff as a lead of the organizing and compiling the information, that the many different projects specifically look at the health impact, and going even part of the project is doing the public survey, to this one. So in general, long story short, that of course my project has not started yet. I'm still working on finalizing the contract work, and in a month or so it should be finalized. And when we have a kickoff meeting, or so, maybe I invite a few like Angie or so to attend and see what investigator is going to do, and how they somehow investigator can talk and maybe collaborate directly to see how their project maybe can benefit, or some result can be useful, and vice versa, getting some feedback on the community in general. I'm not talking just specifically tribal things, maybe that one too, specifically with the area of the wildfire or prescribed fire impacted. So I think for now, until project is start, maybe I cannot share whole a lot until I communicate with the investigator directly of what can be done, But definitely, because one aspect of my project is looking at the Ben map and look at the, health impact of both wildfire and prescribed, fire, and the community things is a element of all of our research proposal these days, Thank you.
Thank you. Is there an element of that research that is going to seek tribal input, or is this mainly doing an investigation sort of the air pollution levels and other statistics that you don't need to go talk to tribes about?
I don't think that the tribal is really element of that, but then the impact on the, especially in the WUI, wildland, interference, because these days, California is a large population, or in that, WUI environment, so they mainly going to concentrate on those community which are located downwind of the wildfire, or or prescribed fire. Whether the tribal community is also included in that WUI environment, that I need to investigate.
Yeah. I mean, and actually the results of that research could end up being somewhat contentious. I can see. Yeah, Lori's thinking the same way. With the tribal community, if we come out and we hear at the end of the prescribed burns are causing health impacts, but prescribed burns are a very high priority for tribes, that will be interesting. I mean, so I think it's common sense that there would be some impact for any tribe or for any fire. Okay, so that to me sounds more like useful as literature review when there's information available to fold in here, and also useful not just for this questionnaire, but later on we'll talk about like a white paper we're working on, and it may even be something we want to hear about in future webinar series or summit that we're going to have. So I think it's all super useful, and it's one of the cases we've made to the BIA and asking for dollars has been we don't think there's enough information around the health impacts of smoke that's useful and available to tribes. And it sounds like that's something that you're going to be building. So that's good. Okay. Any other literature that's coming out of anybody else's agencies or data sets that we should be looking at so we don't ask the same questions?
Angie, there's a new Cal study that just came out about with new measures of wildfire smoke exposure in California, where they found a disproportionate exposure of areas with higher Native American populations in California over the 15-year study period. I'll put the link in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Just sounds kind of related to your
Perfect.
proposed white paper.
Healthy Places Index has good data here, but what we always find is most of the data that's available and some of the big tools is annualized PM 2.5. Even at a CDC, a lot of it's like annualized PM 2.5, and it's really hard to make that episodic to really understand the impact that wildfires are having on the air quality issues. Okay.
Angie, I dropped in CDC updates, but there's some heat data, new data sets coming out in the next month. Not wildfire air quality specific, but just FYI to folks. I've got to jump off in like 3 minutes. So sorry to be quick. But just wanted to put that out there, that there's a heat index, heat health index that's coming out next month that is basically going to be it's being developed by the same group out of CDC that developed a social vulnerability index. It's GRASP, and they're going to have zip code level kind of heat health vulnerability information to kind of give it that kind of community vulnerability mapping information. And then also the National Weather Service and CDC have been working on a expanding the heat risk product, which is currently on the West to the whole US. And it's been slightly adjusted to, incorporate health information. So that will be rolling out next week, actually. Though, it should be next week or the 22nd, actually, so 2 weeks. That will give like current heat risk kind of picture as well as a 7-day forecast, and be based on health information rather than just like an arbitrary kind of heat threshold or temperature threshold. So just a heads up on that.
Thank you, Claudia. Super glad to have you here. Is there anything else that you got going? Like, is there any original research or needs to reach out to California communities?
So one thing I put in here, two other things was, FYI, the BRACE framework is being updated and should be coming out this year with implementation guidance as well as a data and resource guide. So it's meant to make BRACE more accessible to jurisdictions that do have less resources and smaller. So I think this is really relevant for tribes. And then this data resource guide is meant to be kind of like a high level, but introduction to climate and health data and resources. So people that are coming into the field for the first time, it's like a good intro and provide some good resources on there. So we'll have the easy tool on there. And, I might even reach out and share what we have to get any input in case we're missing something. And then we have a heat and health equity webinar coming out that we're planning for early June. I don't have a link yet or details on it, but we would like to get some tribal representation on that webinar. I know Angie and Shasta, I reached out to you recently because I've also been working on NIHIS planning, which is next week. And thanks for the context, Shasta. I'll reach out to them, but just I don't know if anyone has any good contacts or I don't know, someone I could connect with. Yeah, I see there a hand raised to Samu.
Oh, I think that maybe Elizabeth on my team passed on my recommendations to you, Claudia, about one
Yes.
potential tribe, but
Yeah,
I
you
just
know,
like to I'd like to
yeah.
let everybody else get if they have any recommendations before I had a related comment.
You know, in California right now, there's a grant for extreme heat and community resilience out right now from OPR, and I wonder if when they get the applications, if there's tribal applications in there, it might point to the right people. I mean, I know lots of tribes dealing with heat. I'm just hesitant to offer them because they're so freaking busy. We can't hardly complete our adaptation plans.
And there is gonna be, I know NOAA, after we get through NIHS next week, they have their overlooked and overburdened webinar series around heat. And they'll have a specific focus. Their next webinar, I believe, is on tribes. So we'll be, it's the same folks. I mean, I know that they're having their own issues. Yeah, making connections there. So we work really closely together. So it could inform that webinar as well as the one that we're planning in June. Oh, that's NIHS, not NIDUS. I know, very
Oh,
confusing.
sorry, is that this one here then? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's that one.
Okay, yep, sorry. Great. Claudia, we'll have to I guess we should let you go. I do want to let you know, I'm probably going to reach out to you, especially with all this heat information. We're going to
Yeah.
end up talking about our 2024 summit, which is going to be in November. And so you would be a great speaker, or maybe you can point us in the direction of some of the latest and greatest coming out of CDC and friends.
Yes, absolutely. Happy to help with that. Sorry, I got to run to my son's like parent-teacher conference.
Oh, yeah, go for it. Thanks, Claudia.
Very important. Good to connect with you guys. And Asami, feel free to, I'll drop my email in the chat real quick.
All right, great. So let's see. I mean, I think that's a lot on the questionnaire, and it's starting to bleed into some other areas. So they're basically NOAA and us, I think, will follow up. Osamu, do you have any interest in this piece? Do you have like a need to put questions somewhere?
I'm sorry, I think I missed the pitch for what this is.
Oh, sorry. We're back here to the statewide tribal questionnaire, and it sounds like us and NOAA, we're going to work together on a questionnaire about California tribes covering general climate and health resilience data, practices, needs, and gaps, but also with a special focus on wildfire air quality and health. And wondered if, do you have anything in the queue that you need tribal input? Okay.
Not me per se. I guess I just wanted to flag two partners that we've been trying to coordinate with more. One is the Indian Health Service Environmental Health Program. I just learned is formally expanding to do more on climate change, and it's actually in their national strategic plan now. They have some existing programs on wildfire smoke, on just giving tribes emergency grants for air purifiers. And they also, I think there's two other areas, I think extreme heat and water quality. So like harmful algal blooms and things like that, drought impacts on water quality. That I have a contact there with the California IHS Environmental Health, and she is really interested in receiving resources and being plugged in to this kind of thing. I think this would be a great group to loop her in on. The other thing I wanted to flag is that I know that the California Tribal Epidemiology Center, who y'all have referenced tribes to for data support and analysis in the past, has lost some key staff members recently, and that I would say I question whether or not they could actually provide timely or quality data analysis for tribes right now. So there's, I think, a little bit of a gap there right now. You know, I'm only one person, so I can try to support tribes when they have those kinds of needs. But I think for the time being, we'll have to, you know, step up to fill that gap until they are able to rehire.
Do you have tribes contacting you looking for that kind of data support? Or do you feel like a list?
No, it comes up sometimes in the projects that I more actively facilitate and design with tribes, but I don't have just kind of individual data requests in that same way.
Do you mind when we go out and do recruitment for this tribal advisory group, because these guys are gonna be the ones that get access to our help getting data, including through Tribal Epidemiology Center. Could you mine your contacts and send it along to whoever you think would benefit?
Yeah, definitely. I will say on that same note, CDPH is forming a tribal health equity advisory group, which are going to be compensated positions, and they are currently recruiting for that and trying to get that formed on a pretty tight timeline. But that will continue to exist, and they're going to do some important work, which has somehow not been done in the past, of helping advise putting together a tribal consultation policy, and then also, I hope, addressing some of the data sharing issues that were, we'll say, discovered during the COVID pandemic around challenges that CDPH has legally with sharing or like disaggregated health data with tribes. So you know, I hope that they're able to make some breakthroughs in that area, because we have a program, you know, our syndromic surveillance of heat-related illness program, that is rapidly being staffed up, and we hope to have that data be available to tribes in addition to local health jurisdictions. And I think, as things stand right now, I would be surprised if CDPH could share disaggregated syndrome, like heat-related illness data with tribes, based on the COVID-19 experience.
This is really good intel, though. You would think I would have known, because you have a contract with Paula already, so we're already buddies. Do you think there's any opportunity to work together so that we could piggyback on your advisory group, or is that just too complicated?
It is an advisory group for all of CDPH, so not just climate change related topics.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, I would love to have climate change be a clear priority of that group and make it known that this is an area where there has already been a lot of work in consulting with tribes and other partners. And so, yes, I guess maybe we can set up a follow-up call to talk a little bit more about this and figure out if there's any way to get that program that's leading the FEAG, a horrible acronym, but Tribal Health Equity Advisory Group. Yeah, isn't that hideous? Sounds like a, you know, something that like a troll would eat for dinner. Yeah, but maybe combine forces there.
Okay.
Osamu, are you as stunned as I am that CDPH can't share disaggregated data?
Yes,
Okay,
definitely.
thank you.
Stunned. I mean, and it's specifically with tribes. I think we can share some of that disaggregated data with local health jurisdictions, and so there was before the Tribal Epidemiology Center lost their main epidemiological lead. She was doing a lot of advocacy around this, and I think they were supporting a bill to try to address this issue. But I don't actually know the status of that now, and whether or not it will be brought back up in the next legislative session. And I'm also not allowed to talk about that kind of thing.
Okay. So we didn't hear much from Water Board, and before we have to close out here, I wanted to know, let's see, maybe you've thrown a lot in here. Thank you. Is there anything coming to mind for you that you need to collaborate on? I have something in mind for you.
Sure. I'm just kind of taking this all in and also thinking that I need to rope in another staff member in our next meeting, our tribal liaison that is more aware of like overall board activities rather than just our little area.
Okay, yeah, that works. Would you, yeah, one thing I'm really flagging for you guys, well, maybe two things, is as we work on this research paper where we're trying to really understand the status of available wildfire, water, and water related data for California tribes, that's where we would really love to work with you guys. So basically accessing the best available data and then trying to understand where there might still be gaps.
Like what kind of water use data?
Water supply.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like groundwater level, stream flow, that kind of thing. The data is just not there enough for tribes that I can find to make some long-term decisions.
For the wildfire data piece on that, it's a little bit outdated because I did it a year ago, but I did do a quick literature review, by no means systematic, but I compiled a list of 5 or 6 wildfire data sources and all their information in California. So I can go ahead and I'll check with my team to see if I can send that to you, but yeah, I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, we're looking at that one specifically through the lens of the health impacts, which you probably were too, health impacts, wildfire. Cool.
For the water data, Ava might be able to help with this, but I know that the different districts measure it differently. So in the Owens Valley, LADWP, who influences the Inyo Water District, changed the way they measure groundwater recently. So it's not in line with the way other districts measure it. So it's another thing you have to keep in mind when you're looking at this data.
Yes, we also have a lot of issues with timing, and a lot of different
exactly.
like wholesalers and suppliers will supply their data at a quarterly, monthly, every other month. And that's been a kind of a headache we've been dealing with. But yeah, I can definitely work on aggregating this information that I know exists in multiple places. I will have to work on finding out like how much of it is public, how much of it is I guess also quality, because there's in the areas of our board that we get like really large data sets, there's less ability to we just trust that the reporters are being accurate with their numbers, and there's less ability to just like go in and actually track down every single strange number. So another thing I've been kind of interfacing with lately.
Okay, so some follow-ups to do here. As always, we reach back out to this group for things like summit speakers or webinar series speakers, and we've got those coming up. So November's our summit, and then after that, we're going to start a brand new webinar series. And so you guys have always been very good about helping us with that when we need. Is there an interest in this group of connecting quarterly or something like that, or on collaboration opportunities or just sharing info, or should we just do that on the regular National Tribal Resilience Data Work Group? Oh, Laura, you're muted.
I was just saying do it under the regular meetings because people are probably meetinged out, but that's me.
Yeah, maybe once a quarter we turn, well, every other meeting of the National Tribal Resilience Data Work Group, we actually just talk through collaboration opportunities. Okay. Yeah, let's do that. All right, so I will follow up then. Yeah, there's a few of you I'm going to follow up with on disparate things, but keep this group in mind. I think there are ways to leverage. Even just this call today has brought up a few things that we might be able to follow up with and streamline together. So Any final words from anyone before we close out? All right. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate your continued partnership.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.